Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our entitled parents. In today's episode, entitled mother allows her precious baby to steal our cat. I told my stepdad I have a day off on Mother's Day. He thinks is bullshit. Entitled mother snatches my phone out of my hand because I wouldn't let her son play games on it. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled mother allows her precious baby to steal our cat. My family and I moved back to my home country, New Zealand, a few years ago and brought over all our animals. One of our cats became an outdoor cat and wandered to all of our neighbors' gardens, but she would always come back home at night. One night we noticed that she didn't come back, but we thought it was a fluke. One night became 1 week, and by then we had already called around our close neighbors and had printed out posters. One day, walking home from school, my sister saw her in a neighbor's window and called our parents. My mother and I went to their home and confronted them about it. Our neighbors consisted of one mother, one father, and a little girl, about 7 years old. Apparently, what had happened was she wandered into their garden. The neighbor's daughter managed to catch her and wanted to keep her, despite the obvious collar. The parents allowed her to keep our cat and replaced her collar. When my mother demanded that they give her back, our neighbor obviously refused and tried to twist the story and make it our fault because we didn't offer to sell our cat when we moved in. I don't even know how a person can be that delusional. The mother claimed that it was unfair to her previous baby that we didn't offer to give them our cat because her daughter was younger than my sister and I. She said that our cat and her child had formed a bond blessed by God. I had had enough and called our cat, and the second she appeared I grabbed her and ran away. The mother and child started to scream like banshees, so my mother followed after me. When the neighbor called the police and demanded that we give her back, they forgot the fact that microchips exist, and that was all the proof the police needed to see that she was ours. We did tell our neighbors who have cats to make sure to watch out for them. What's with people wanting to steal other people's cats? I had a cat, a cute little American Shorthair, and she was also an outdoor kind of cat. One day she suddenly disappeared, and she was a stray cat I took in, so I didn't have any official record that she was my cat. But I live in a compound and everyone knew she was my cat. Turns out one of the neighbors trapped her in their house and gave her back to me 2 weeks later when she took a dump on their bed. Edit. I've been seeing a lot of people mention that I shouldn't be letting my cat run free to mess with someone's property. First of all, the place I live in has way too many cats than it needs. At least 20 stray cats stay in my compound, which is relatively small. So everyone is used to cat-proofing their front doors, and there are no plants or gardens out the front. So there's really no problem in letting her out. Second, like I said, my cat was a stray, so she doesn't like staying indoors all the time. Thank God for microchips. Shame the neighbor didn't get in trouble for animal theft. Sadly, microchips only do so much. Unless someone scans them and contacts the rightful owner, the thief potentially gets to keep the stolen cat for years. What I'm impressed by is your cat comes when called. My entire family has tried to instill that in every cat we've ever had, and they've never responded with more than disinterested boredom, occasionally tinged with contempt. This might get downvoted, but don't want people to steal your pets? Don't let be free range. You want an outdoor cat. This is one of the risks you signed up for, same as them getting hit by a car overnight. I'm all for letting cats have outside time with someone watching them, but letting them out at night, this wasn't a if it would happen, but when it would happen. I am glad you got your cat back, but I hope you learned a lesson from it. I told my stepdad I have a day off on Mother's Day. He thinks is bullshit. So I request a day off on Mother's Day, to spend time with my mother. I'm planning to get her gifts, even thinking taking her to a restaurant, couple of Mother's Day. She never gets where she wants to go cause my stepdad's mother always gets what she wants. Even when my mom wanted to go to Red Lobster, my step-grandmother says, "No way. That place is gross. Why you even want to go there? I want KFC." And we went to KFC. I want me, my mom, and my brother just spend time together and not. With my step-family, just us three, today I've been searching gifts for her, while getting my brothers off to school. I told my dad I had Mother's Day off. Then he asked, why you have so many days off all the time, which isn't true. I work at Burger King and they haven't been giving me extra days of work even when I tried to request it, I said. Spending time within women that gave me life is important respectfully on Mother's Day, which he just says you work between 2 to 3 hours a week. When I remind him it's 20 or 15, he just snapped and just got upset telling me I shouldn't have a day off and how it was bullshit for me to get a day off on that day. Remind you he has a day off on Mother's Day on Sunday. He has days off on mostly Mondays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And he's an engineer. He fixed cars. He just kept talking how it was a stupid idea to do that, then just left. I couldn't believe this asshole what he said, but I don't know what to do. I know it's best to tell my mother, but for God's sake, I don't want any arguments again from the both. I'm wondering what should I do? Tell your mom. It's her day. She can decide. If she's wanting to spend time with step-grandma, she can, but it sounds like you don't like her, so I wouldn't. If you're old enough to work, then you're old enough to decide how to spend your time. Tell your mom you're off on Mother's Day and want to spend it with her and take her to lunch or dinner, and she gets to pick the restaurant. Stepdad and his mom can go shove their heads in a bucket of chicken. Sounds like stepdad is just jealous that there isn't such a thing as Stepfather's Day. I could write volumes on that subject. Entitled mother snatches my phone out of my hand because I wouldn't let her son play games on it. I did not know they made those in Canada too. For context, I am a young university student. I have 2 phones, one which is an old Huawei model that I use for school and work. It's quite slow but has all my authenticator apps for school, years of notes, the email I use for work, and my work number on it. It runs okay-ish well, but is horrible in terms of processing speed and storage. Yet I'm a lazy shit and keep putting off transferring all the data to make my future self's life easier. My second phone, on the other hand, is a newer iPhone 14 Pro Max model, and it has all my games, friend contacts, social media, etc. on them. This occurred back when classes were still in session, but reading all these stories jotted my memory, and now I finally have time to share it too. Everything is still so vividly detailed in my head that I basically can't get it out, since everything was so absurd. Anyways, onto the story. Onto the bus I go, a normal ride for me which I take every day. I take 2 connections, one which is an express bus from the university to a SkyTran station, and the second from the SkyTran station to home. The second bus is where I encounter this entitled parent. I sit down at the back of the bus where I always sit, and a woman who's on her phone and talking very loudly gets on the bus with a noisy kid who is screaming and crying and throwing a hissy fit for God knows why. I sigh, realize it's going to be one of those rides, and try to ignore the commotion. Little did I know, the little one has climbed up next to my seat and staring at my screen, while her mother is nearly 5 seats away, still in heated conversation about God knows what. Out of nowhere, I hear a, "Do you have games on your phone?" I spin around, and there he is. This little kid, perhaps 7 or 8, is gazing deep into my soul, on his knees on the seat, and inches from my face. I lean back because, well, I don't function well with people up in my face, and this kid leans closer. Foolishly, I reply, "Yeah. Can I play on it?" "No, go away." "But I'm bored." "I don't care. Go away." The kid pouts and runs off. I thought that was the end of it. Then, a shadow looms over me. I hear a hymn. Then again. I try to ignore it, but it was like an unskippable boss fight cutscene. Then, out of the corner of my ear, "Young man." I look up. Great. It's the crazy lady. "Yeah. Why did you tell my son he couldn't use your phone?" "Because it's my phone." You kids are always glued to the screen these days. You can do without it for a single bus ride. At this point, I am stunned, so I don't respond for a few seconds, then slowly reply. What I do with my phone is none of your business. This lady recoils in shock and anger as if I had just buried a puppy alive. How dare you talk to me like that? Show some respect. She then sees my second phone, my work phone, and says, "You have two phones. Just give him one. You can use the other one." No, lady. I'm not giving some stranger's kid my phone. But you don't need two phones. Lady, I was annoyed at this point, and my tone was starting to get aggressive. It doesn't matter that I have two phones. They are my phones. I won't be giving them to your son. No means no. She rolls her eyes and walks away, her son screaming and clutching the legs of her pants. I tune out the commotion once more, stricken with disbelief and still wondering what in the world just happened. Open up some offline games to decompress. I thought that was the end of everything. How foolish I was. I feel a tug on my backpack as I zone out. I instinctively look for my screen, and this little piece of shit is under the seat. Reaching into my bag trying to pull out my second phone. I panic, smack away his hand, and shout, "What are you doing?" Now, I am normally a very calm and reserved person. However, having served 6 full years in the Royal Canadian Army Cadets and currently being a drill instructor, my voice was loud when I wanted it to be. The kid winces and cowers, freezing for a solid moment before crawling out from under the seat and runs to his mother crying. I sigh to myself. Yep, she's back. Before the kid even reaches her, she's up and storming over. How dare you speak to my son like that? Your son tried to steal my phone. Let him have it. Stop being a brat. You can stay off your phone for a moment. It's not that big of a deal. I was seething with rage, boiling with anger. Without skipping a beat, I spat back. Well, if it's not such a big deal, how about you let him have yours? That way, you can keep an eye on your little precious angel and start being a responsible parent for once. Your kid being bored is not my responsibility. She turned red and demanded, "Are you calling me a bad parent?" And I responded with, "If you were such a good parent, your kid wouldn't be off trying to steal other people's stuff." Now, our shouting match had drawn quite a commotion. I heard a few oohs and damn-s from the back of the bus. She grew visibly red and snatched my phone from my hand. Not my work phone, the one in my hand. "Give me that. You brats don't deserve these." I was stunned for a second that she actually did something so incomprehensibly stupid. Looking back, I knew I should have done something better, but I sprang up, wrestled my phone from her grasp, and knocked her down in the process. Shit hits the fan. She starts wailing like a banshee, screaming that I assaulted her. Her son is crying and he's punching me in the legs. The bus screeches to a halt, and the driver comes running up. Now, seeing the situation, me towering over the screeching mother and holding a phone, he assumes that I was the perpetrator. This is quite a long bus, joined together with 2 sections, so I assumed that he hadn't heard or saw exactly what was happening, only noticing the commotion in his rear mirror and seeing me knock Karen down after snatching the phone from her grasp. So he says, "Sir, return that device at once and leave the premises, or I will be forced to call the pole dash." Before he can even finish the sentence, the entire bus explodes with several other passengers speaking up at once, defending my case and telling the driver what had actually happened. The driver held up his hand, backed up, and tried to get everyone to calm down, which took quite a while, especially because the Karen kept screaming that she was going to have me arrested, that she was going to sue me, that she was going to press charges, etc. Once everything finally calms down, I begin to speak. However, the Karen interjects with, "Sir, he stole my phone from me. I demand to have this, insert racial slur, arrested." "Ma'am, please don't use that language here." He looks like he's about to say something else, but I sigh and hold up my hand, and in the most calm voice I can muster in the moment, reply, "Sir, this phone is mine. If you will allow me, I will unlock it." I hold up the phone. It's got an anime wallpaper on it, certainly not something middle-aged women with children would have. I type in the password, and the screen is unlocked. The Karen starts screeching again. He saw me type in my password. That's how he knows. "Lady," a clearly annoyed man in the back speaks up in a booming voice. "There are cameras on the bus. Everything is recorded." At the mention of cameras, she turns white as a sheet. Then, without skipping a beat, she drags her crying son to the back door and begins pounding on it, demanding that she be let out, all while screaming obscenities and threatening that she's going to sue, that she's going to file a complaint with transit, blah blah blah. That wasn't even it. In the commotion, despite threatening to buy the Karen, someone had actually called the cops, right on cue, so two officers roll up to the bus with flashing lights. The Karen throws herself at the officers as they are let in and starts spinning some sob story when she's cut off at once by a very annoyed police officer. This was something like 8 at night and was probably nearing the end of his shift or something, because he had an expression like he was absolutely done. Long story short, the bus was halted for something like an hour and 45 minutes. A second one pulled up which all the other passengers filed off into, not before giving a witness's statement. The camera feed was pulled, and Karen was placed into the back of a cruiser after she slapped a police officer. One says that they arrived because there was a report of someone being assaulted on public transport. The police get my contact information, my ID, etc., and tells me that they'll contact me if anything else needs to be done. I have no idea what happened to the kid because I didn't stick around for the aftermath and just wanted to get the hell out of there. The worst part? My parents, who was always displeased with me coming at home late, unfortunately, did not believe my story. They thought it was an excuse. This goes beyond entitled parents and veers into mental illness, probably both. I would have found it hard not to smack her and boot that brat 50 yards away. TBH, this sounds pretty on point for racism, and sadly is not the worst I've heard or seen. I was starting to wonder partway through the story before the racial slur part. Entitlement gets a lot worse when someone thinks skin color will let them get away with it. This is BS. At least 10 versions of this story have been told in various subreddits already. So we're faced with two possibilities: that people are copying the stories, or that the entitled, narcissistic behaviors are endemic to our planet. A planet in which one of the major nations elected Trump, whose picture you will find in the dictionary next to narcissistic, as president and is poised to do so a second time. Story seems completely credible to me. It gets old that on so many posts one or several commenters question the validity of the story. The fact that people are similar would make me believe similar experiences could happen to numerous people. Hopefully you're not punished or anything like that, because if you are, why don't you just call the police station and ask them for documentation to prove to your parents that you were involved in that, so you can at least tell them, "I'm not lying, this is what happened." If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.